The circular pattern tool creates instances of geometry spaced around an axis. Using this part, I will show you how to create a circular pattern of this circular cutout, which is comprised of a cut extrude feature and a fillet feature. You can find the circular pattern feature in the Insert Pattern Mirror drop-down menu, as well as in the Linear Pattern flyout on the Command Manager. I'll click it and the Property Manager appears. The first group box lets you set the pattern parameters, but before I talk pattern options, I would like to first select the geometry that I'm going to the change. By doing so, I will be able to see a preview of the pattern in the graphics area. Just like many pattern tools, you can choose whether pattern feature face or bodies. As I mentioned earlier, this cutout is made up of two features. So I'll click in the feature pattern window. To select the feature I wish to pattern, I can select them from the graphic area, or I can expand the feature manager tree and select them from here. Now that I have the seed geometry selected, I'll go back to the direction 1 group box. In the first field, you can specify the entity to use for the pattern axis. The pattern axis can be a linear edge or sketch line, circular edge, cylindrical face or surface. Angular dimension axis or temporary axis or any other entity that can be used to define. Or a center of rotation. I'll select the cylindrical face and a preview appears. The next field is where you can set the angle for the pattern instances. Notice that right now the equal spacing option is selected, and since the angle is set to 360, all of the pattern instances are equally spaced throughout the 360-degree range. If I change this angle to 90 degree, you can see how the instances are equally spaced throughout that range. If I switch to instance spacing, the angle field now represents the angle between each instance. This can obviously be adjusted as well. Notice there is a call out in the graphic area where this value can be adjusted as well as the number of instances. I'll type a 6 for the number of instances and 45 degree for the spacing. You probably notice that although the number of instances is set to 6, only 5 are copies of the original seed geometry. Keep in mind this value represents the total number of instances including the seed geometry. As a quick side note, you can reverse the direction the pattern is going is by clicking on the side arrow, the graphic area, or the reverse direction button in the property manager. To complete the pattern in the example, I'll select the equal spacing. Make sure the angle is set to 360 degrees and click OK. If you would like to modify the pattern, you can do so just like any other feature. I'll click on the circular pattern feature and select Edit feature. The property manager appears once again and you can make any changes you want from here. I want to point out some of the other options available for the circular pattern. I'll scroll down the property manager and here you can skip specific pattern instances, edit options, and vary the spacing between each instance, as well as dimension of the pattern geometry itself. I'm not going to discuss these options here since they are discussed in depth in another lecture. But if for now I just want to let you know about these options exist here a circular pattern as well. At this point, let's switch over the another part and I will go through one more example. Here on this part, I would like to create a circular pattern of these two circular cutouts about the center of this sheet. But since the part does not already contain geometry that can be used or the center of the rotation, I have to create an axis to rotation about. To create an axis, I will expand the reference geometry, fly out from the feature toolbar and click axis. The property manager appears. There are many ways of creating an axis and won't go into all of them here. The important thing I want you to know about is that an axis can be created manually in cases where you need one for a circular pattern. In this case, I'll select the top face of the part and the region to create this axis. Now that I have suitable axis for the pattern, I'll again launch the circular pattern command. When the property manager appears, I'll select the geometry to pattern in order to generate a preview in the graphic area. The geometry I want to pattern is a single feature, so I'll click the feature to pattern window and select the cut extrude feature. I'll go back up to the direction 1 section. I'll select the axis I created a moment ago as the pattern axis and a preview appears. Next, I want to circular pattern spaced uniformly about the axis, so I'll make sure the equal spacing. I'll select it and the angle is set to 360 degree. I'll change the number of instances to 8, click OK, and the circular pattern is finished.